country that is committing apartheid, that is committing genocide, the US government should not be selling it weapons. We don't sell weapons to Russia.
So Mehdi Hasan just demolished the intellectual contradiction at the heart of American foreign policy. We won't arm Russia because they're committing genocide, but we'll arm Israel while they do the same thing. This interview with Khanna exposes how Democrats dodge this moral bankruptcy. Let's break down the hypocrisy.
It allows Israel to wage war without consequence, without pushback. It lowers the cost of Israel going to war, a country that has attacked multiple countries in the region, Lebanon, Iran, Syria, Yemen, Qatar, Gaza. And they do that. They're able to get away with that because of Iron Dome.
This is the strategic reality nobody talks about. Iron Dome isn't just defense, it's offense enabler. Israel hit Lebanon's Dahiya, Syria's Damascus, Iran's Isfahan, Yemen's Hodeidah, all in 2024 alone. When you're immune to retaliation, aggression becomes cost-free. That's exactly how imperial powers operate.
Is that not a US president bragging about committing war crimes and crimes against humanity?
Yes. Under Geneva Convention Article 51, targeting civilian areas is explicitly illegal. When Trump bragged about bombing Iran back to the Stone Age, that's textbook war crimes language, destroying civilian infrastructure. Yet Democrats who impeached him twice for phone calls stayed silent on actual war crimes.
Privately, they support this war. It's only because Donald Trump is doing this war that they're publicly against it. If Biden was doing this, if Kamala Harris was doing this, Chuck Schumer would be rah-rahing on from the sides. He would love a war with Iran. He attacked Trump from the right prior to this war, saying he's not tough enough on Iran.
Schumer voted for Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya interventions under Democrats, but suddenly discovers anti-war principles under Trump. In 2019, he criticized Trump for being too soft on Iran. This isn't principled opposition. It's pure partisan theater masquerading as conscience.
They immediately quote Kamala Harris saying during the campaign, Iran is our greatest adversary. They quote her saying all options were on the table for her as president against Iran. That kind of rhetoric did make her sound like a hawk. It did make her sound like someone who would take military action against Iran. She left the lane open.
All options on the table is diplomatic code for threatening military force. Harris used identical language to Bush before Iraq, Obama before Libya. Her campaign literally said Iran was America's greatest adversary, not China or Russia. She absolutely left the door open for this war.
Israel's genocide on Gaza was obviously a defining issue in the 2024 election. I think even the DNC now accept that. How important do you think it'll be come 2028 and the election then? What do you make of Democrats like Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, who's seen as a 2028 candidate, who've complained about the word genocide becoming the new litmus test, a new purity test for Democrats?
Gaza cost Democrats Michigan, Pennsylvania margins in 2024. But centrists like Beshear still resist calling genocide genocide. They're terrified that anti-war positions will become litmus tests because it threatens their donor base. The establishment knows they're on the wrong side of history here.
When you and Thomas Massie introduced a war powers resolution in the early days of this conflict, it failed by 7 votes. 4 Democrats voted against it. One of them was Congressman Juan Vargas of California. And he said that he's voting against it because of the Iranian government's crackdown on protesters he pointed to earlier this year. He said it was, that made this war moral. You're going against a very evil regime. What is your reaction to that line of reasoning, that the Iranian government's behavior towards its own population is what justifies an intervention by the US?
Classic humanitarian intervention playbook. We invaded Iraq for democracy, Libya for human rights, but ignore Saudi Arabia's Yemen genocide, Israel's Gaza slaughter. If human rights mattered, we wouldn't be allies with half our partners. It's always selective moral outrage for strategic purposes.
We did a poll with DropSite recently, which found that 52% of Americans believe that Trump attacked Iran partly so he could distract from the Epstein files disaster.
That polling reflects widespread skepticism about war timing. Epstein files dropped January 3rd. Iran strikes happened January 9th. Americans learn from Iraq WMDs. They know leaders manufacture crises. Over half the country thinks this war is politically motivated distraction.
There are certain countries we don't sell even defensive weapons to because we think they're bad.
We refuse weapons to Myanmar, Belarus, North Korea for human rights violations, but Israel gets $40 billion annually while committing documented genocide. The double standard is staggering. We have moral standards for everyone except left our strategic allies.
There is a story that I know you've been following recently, which about a woman in the files who claims that she was sexually abused by Donald Trump as a child. These are not verified reports. They are based around FBI interviews and tips, but the FBI did speak with her. Some say they did find her credible. Donald Trump, of course, denies the allegations. We don't know it's true, but it's in the files.
FBI credibility assessments matter. They don't investigate frivolous claims against presidents. The fact that agents found her testimony credible enough to document should concern everyone. Government transparency isn't partisan. It's fundamental to democracy.
He went on Fox this week and said, we're done with Epstein. There is nothing more to be released.
Trump appointed his personal defense lawyer as attorney general. That's unprecedented conflict of interest. Pam Bondi literally defended him in court. Now she controls DOJ investigations. This is exactly how authoritarian leaders capture law enforcement.
As I'm sure you're aware, people are expecting several progressives to be vying for that 2028 Democratic presidential nomination, including maybe Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, yourself. Is that a good thing to have all of you on stage raising issues like Gaza, Iran, a juster foreign policy? Or does that risk splitting the progressive coalition, as in 2020 when you had Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders having a pretty vicious back and forth?
The establishment fears unified progressive foreign policy more than Trump himself. In 2020, Warren and Sanders split over domestic issues, but on war, they're aligned. A unified anti-war progressive bloc in 2028 could actually challenge the military-industrial complex's Democratic wing.
You are now facing a primary challenge for your own seat in Congress from tech entrepreneur Ethan Agarwal, who has specifically criticized not just your stance on Israel, but the billionaires tax ballot initiative in California, which you support. Gavin Newsom, interestingly, opposes in your party. This candidate, Agarwal, is backed by several Silicon Valley figures, including Y Combinator CEO Gary Tan, venture capitalist Ron Conway. How hard is it going to be for you to beat someone who's backed by some of the richest people in California?
Silicon Valley billionaires are systematically targeting anti-war progressives. They primary challengers against anyone who opposes their Pentagon contracts or questions Israeli aid. AIPAC spent over $100 million in 2024 primaries alone. This is political warfare by the wealthy.
It's hard to persuade a man to see your point of view when his salary depends upon him not seeing your point of view.
Upton Sinclair's quote perfectly captures Washington. Defense contractors pay congressional salaries through campaign contributions. AIPAC funds primary challenges. Tech billionaires bankroll opposition. When your career depends on supporting war, peace becomes professionally impossible.